Al, does the Western Hockey League provide you with a daily update of what draft picks everybody has?
They provide updates, but it's not daily, no.
Okay, weekly type of thing? Because it's tough to keep track of, so I'm wondering how you guys keep track of it.
Well, the most important chart we have is our own.
Okay.
So we update it with every move that we make.
Mm-hmm.
We have timely updates from the league that we can reference. We also have updates on some other platforms, but for the most part, I'm just concerned about our chart.
Okay. A lot of scratches out.
Hey?
Additions, a lot of writing in and scratches out on your chart.
Yeah, Tristan Fry looks after that,
Okay.
so he's the busy guy.
Okay.
Just when we make a move, he updates the charts.
Okay.
We update our draft charts and our depth charts 4 years out with every move that we make.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Al, no like big deals ahead of this trade deadline for you guys. That came Tanner Howe earlier, Spencer came just recently, but just thoughts on the moves you made this year, getting ready.
Well, we don't have a couple of hours for me to go over. We've been we've obviously been busy, and so I think when I look at the body of work and where we're at, I think we've made some good progress. I think that you can start to see the addition of the young players, the talent, the upgraded skill set that I believe that we've added to our club. We've certainly bolstered our draft capital considerably during the last year. We look at 9 picks in the first 2 rounds of the next 2 drafts, 4 firsts, 5 seconds. That's a foundation for what could be a good team for a long time. Obviously, we have work to do around the drafts to make sure we're getting the right players and developing the right players. But it's not been easy. It's been hard on staff. Most importantly, it's been hard on the players, just in terms of, and you guys see it across sports, whether it's the NFL or an NHL or this level. When you're in a rebuild like we are, it's difficult, and we have some quality people here like Whitehead and Babcock who are fine being part of the process, want to help our young players get better. John Babcock's been outstanding with our young 17-year-old defenseman. So those quality people are important. But the reality of the situation, and guys, we've talked about this for over a year since I got here. It's obviously a bit of a teardown. It's a significant rebuild, and we're in the middle of it. And now we have to continue to build. And I think the other thing that I would say, guys, is that when we talk about a rebuild and we talk about the moves that we make, there's a real important part of that goes hand in hand with the moves you make, and that's that you have the right opportunities and the right development model for the young players that you bring in. And so that's why over the last number of days, getting to 13 forwards, getting to 7 defensemen, ensuring that our young players were going to play, get the opportunities to get better. Certainly, again, tough decisions on Chichkin to get us to 7D, Anthony Wilson, and there was a flip of bringing another 17-year-old player in. But that whole process to move out 19 years old, Ty Spencer as a very good Pat. Pleased that we got him an opportunity to finish his career in the league. But that's the second step of what a rebuild is that we have to develop, and our players have to be put in positions to get better. And I had to ensure by 7 o'clock tonight that was in place.
Has your timeline on this rebuild changed? I just was looking back at your comments at last year's trade deadline. You were hoping this season you'd be pretty good, next season be competitive. Where are we at on the timeline for this team?
Yeah, I think we're timelines, looking at timelines in monitoring the development of 16 and 17-year-old players, you have to be careful. I think that we've built a strong group around the 07 age group. We like our 308 forwards. We're optimistic about our 09 age group. I think we've got some solid pieces in the 06 group that could be good 20-year-olds down the road. It's all part of the process, but part of that process is that, we need to take a good step next year. My expectations will be that we'll do what we need with our roster and any moves that we need to make to be a playoff team next year. And then when our 07 group is 19, I think we're going to be a pretty good hockey club.
How different?
For a championship in 2 years.
I'm not going to go down that path right now, Daryl, in terms of vie for a championship. Let's see how the process plays out. What I would tell you is if I think we're getting there, we'll make the moves to try and help us get that one step further.
How has trading in this league just changed over the past few years? It just seems like 5-6 years ago is when you really started to see these teams start going all in and making these big deals.
Well, I think it's the reward at the end of the day. It's the opportunity to win a championship, the opportunity to go to the Memorial Cup, and every team's got their own strategies, their own philosophies in terms of what they would want to do. You talk to managers all the time. Some guys are unwilling to move young players, some are unwilling to move first-round picks, and other teams are more aggressive. So, I think we've seen the valleys in terms of, how aggressive teams are. We go back to 2018 when Moose Jaw, Swift Current, and Regina had strong teams, and Regina was hosting, and what that bloodbath looked like in the boardroom. And now you got another one in the Central Division between Calgary, Medicine Hat, and Lethbridge. So I think sometimes the trade deadline is determined on how many buyers versus how many sellers. The more buyers you have, the prices can go up. You have that intensity around a division like the Central Division and some very good teams there. Also the number of elite players that could be available. You see a situation where Kelowna is awarded the Memorial Cup and 2 elite players become available who wouldn't have been available if the Memorial Cup was, awarded to somebody else. But whoever the Memorial Cup was awarded to, they might have had elite players that came on the market to prepare to host the Memorial Cup. So there's all kinds of variables in how things have changed, but certainly the reward at the end of the day to put yourself in a position to win, and I think some general managers look at their teams and say, I have to reward our team for where we're at today and try to help us get over the hump and win a championship.
Is that an extra element you have to consider, like not just your team, but okay, these guys might go all in this year and we're kind of in an arms race with them?
Absolutely. I think that's part of the competitiveness of the boardroom at this time of year when you're looking within your conference, you're looking at what the path looks like to get to a championship. You look at what the hurdles are you have to get over in terms of what you're competing with and how you want to improve your team during that process.
What are you proudest of? What do you think you've improved on the most, if you were to pinpoint something?
Well, I think the 2 things, Daryl, would be I think we've upgraded the skill and talent of our team, and I think we've put ourselves in a position with our draft capital to give us significant options at the draft in terms of building a team through the draft, but also giving us options in terms of having that draft capital to improve our team, whether that's via trades or whether that's by drafting.
Now, before the season, you obviously told fans, hey, we're going to go through this process. We might not be very good for this season or next season, but it's coming. So how have you, through this season, really prepared not just this team, but the fans to give them almost a little bit of optimism for the road ahead that is, like you mentioned, building that draft capital?
Yeah, I think when, to be honest, I think going back to last year's deadline, there was still part of, I knew what we needed to do over the big picture. But I think I was still tiptoeing around the whole rebuild and still evaluating where we were at in the organization and everything. I think this year, as the season went on, continue to get a better handle on where we're at. And, when we knew we were going in this direction, and specifically around the Tanner Howe trade, it was time to be transparent with our fan base. It was time to, just use the word rebuild. And you hear it in pro sports and that, the team's not really saying it. They're saying retool, or they're saying reload, but that's the reality we're in. And whether it was through the Vaughn situation or the Howe trade, I think that whether it was through the media or whether it was through the Pats cast on the podcast, tried to get out in front of it and be transparent with our fans in terms of where we're at, where we're trying to go, what we're doing. I get it. Not everybody's going to agree. Not everybody's going to understand, going back to the last number of years, the situation we were in. But, from my perspective, tried to be as transparent as we could. And I hope that our fans are starting to see, some of the good young players that we have, and be optimistic about the draft capital we've built. I think sometimes people lose sight of the fact of, well, you traded all these guys and now you're here. Well, as we work through October and November, and we, and a lot of our team was intact, but we made some moves along the way, whether that was Oremba and then Howe and the Vaughns and that. But people have to remember, we won one game in 15 games during that time frame that really kind of put us in the position where it was going to be tough to make the playoffs. Since that point, we're pushing close to a 500 team and playing some decent hockey with a young group. And you've seen along the way here, players starting to be rewarded, and part of our plan in terms of when I talk about the roster management, in terms of developing our players, now you have two power play units that are being run by two 17-year-old defensemen in Hamilton and Peranich. We've got a 16-year-old in Klassen on the net front on the power play. Our young guys are starting to kill penalties. Those are the things, you could say unfortunately, but those are the things that just are the reality of the situation. And, we have the responsibility, and I have the responsibility as the head guy on the hockey ops to evaluate where we're at, start to make those moves, and that's why the second part of that on the terms of the roster management is so important. So I say all that just to answer the question in terms of, I hope the fans are starting to see and get excited about, the young players, and then they see the draft capital that we have and understand what value that has and how important that's going to be in the future. And how much pressure we're going to put on Dale Durkach starting with the draft in May.
So knowing where you guys sit right now, and knowing that there's a 14-year-old kid down the hall wearing a different Pats jersey, looking to get drafted in the Western League this year, in Maddox Schultz, you're obviously watching him, but at the same time, have you had any conversations with the leagues about what his future could hold in terms of being able to get exceptional status or anything like that?
So Maddox did not apply for exceptional status. The deadline on exceptional status was December 1st. But the new branch agreement that the WHL has allows any player who's been granted exceptional status to play up a level, like Maddox has to play under 18 with the Patsies, makes him eligible to play 34 games next year for the team that drafts him. So there's a few players in that category in the draft this year, and all I can say about Maddox is that our team knows him very well. He's a special player and a special young man, and he's going to have a great career in the WHL and beyond.
This is kind of off topic, but just with the big change to the NCAA and what they're now able to have kids who play in the WHL go down there, have you noticed a change yet in terms of kids' priorities yet, or that hasn't come?
No, I think the biggest thing that's come out of the NCAA since the announcement is that there's a lot of players that are playing junior A hockey that are interested in coming to the league. We've gone through that process a little bit with one player we moved to Wenatchee, some other players that have shown some interest. Obviously, if you're going to bring those guys in, they've got to be better than what you have, and that hasn't been the situation for us, or they've been 18 or 19-year-olds that don't fit with where we're at and where we want to be. But I think the NCAA eligibility, that's, there's a lot of things that still need to play out. But I think a big part of it is going to be as we prepare for the draft in May. For the most part, the majority, if not all, the young men are going to be interested in playing in the Western League at 16 or 17 because they know they have the option to go to the NCAA down the road.
You talked about Braxton Whitehead, and I spoke to him earlier about the leadership qualities that he shows, obviously Babcock too. Did you get approached about trading him? Was there something, did you promise that you would keep him? I remember you telling me at the start of the year the leadership group was Spencer, Howe, Braxton. Is that the type of guy you wanted to keep around, or does a 20-year-old have less value because of who he is and his age?
20-year-olds at this time of the year, the reality is the majority of contenders are contenders because they have 3 good 20-year-olds. There was no promises made along the way to any of those players in terms of if they would be traded or not. But what I can tell you is that there were conversations with our veteran players, in particular Whitehead and Babcock, about our situation, where we were at, what was in their best interest for us to consider moving forward. And we had 2 young men that stepped up and understood the process, understood something could happen, but their character showed through when they said that they enjoyed being here, and if at the end of the day they finished their careers as a Pat and they were part of the process to help the young players get better, they were fine to do that. And I think that tells you a little bit about how special those 2 young men are.